Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today in this video, we will have a very simple but very frequently asked React interview question that is a simple to-do list. So as you all already know that a to-do list is simply used to add items and remove items as well. But here I have added few messages like if anyone tries to enter empty item, or let's say if the user doesn't write anything and click this button, so you will see a message that is simply empty item cannot be added. And I have also added a condition like I have limited the number of items to 5 for now. So it means a user cannot add items more than 5. So let's say we have added 5 items. Let's say simple fruit items. And after the adding of every item, I have also added a message that is simply item added successfully. And simply now, as I have set the limit of items to 5, now if anyone tries to enter one more item, to see the user will get a message that is item limit reached, delete some items. Okay, so again if a user delete it, see again the item added successfully. So how to have this? So let's just start the video. So again for this video as well, I already have the CSS, so I will provide the CSS in the description. So let's just quickly have our component with this shortcut that is simply your RFC to have your functional component simply. Then let us quickly import our CSS file that is simply todo.css. Then simply div will be with the class name as your to-do container. So the first thing first, we need to have simply an input field. It means we want to capture whatever the user will write. So to capture or to have the user input, simply we need to have input field. So first let us have that. So simply your input field with the type text, and let's add a placeholder as simply, let's say add items, and we want to capture. So simply we need to have an event handler that is your on change. So it will be simply handle change, and whatever the user will write, where we will store that simply in a state variable, right? So again your use state hook, then simply your data with set data, which will put the data in this state variable. So simply your use state, it would be initially empty. Then we need to define this function. So simply your handle change, and to have whatever the user will write, simply we can grab that with the help of event object, as I think you already know about this. So simply your set data event dot target dot value simply, and here we need to have a value attribute simply equal to our data. So now we have whatever the user will write. Let me show you first. Let us console log and show you simply your data. So see, we are getting whatever the user is writing, right? So simply instead of console logging it, so we need to have one more state variable simply to have your, like it would be simply your array to store the list of items, right? So simply here your items will be stored, then simply set items, and this time it would be empty array. So as I told you, we need to have list of items, and we want to have the list of items added on click, right? It means we need to have a button. So if we click that button, we need to add the items. So simply your plus button. Now we want to add the items on clicking it. right? Clicking the button to simply again an on click event handler this time. So it will simply handle your click, right? And now we need to define this also. So simply your handle click this time. So this time it would be simply your set item. Now we will use spread operator. That is simply your items, comma your data. So don't worry about this part. Just wait for 2 minutes. I will show you this. So now let's check. And we need to show the items also in the UI. So for that, simply we need to have ULLI, as we will have list of items, and we will use a map method to have our array of items, right? So simply your items dot map, and as you already know that whatever we will write, the first parameter will hold your complete data, and the second parameter will be your ID simply. Then inside the map method we will have li simply, and whenever you will use map method, you should always include a key prop. So key prop would be simply your ID, and then here it will be your value that is holding your items, or that will hold your items when the user writes. So now let's check. So see, the item is getting added, right? So now let me explain you this part, how it works, the spread operator part. And actually this is the main part of this to-do list. We only have two main logics here. Rest all the things are very simple and I think familiar to you as well. So as you know, the spread operator simply expands an array into individual elements and it creates a new array, but it will not modify the original one. So let's have the example. So let's say initially, like your initial state. So initially your items array is empty. So now let's say a user type, let's say Apple. So simply your data will be and as we have this line, that is your three dots items. So initially, as I told you, it will expand an array into individual elements. So initially the items is empty. So as soon as the user write some data, what it does, the items will have this data simply. But now let's say the user writes, maybe the user added one more item, let's say orange this time. So now as the items already have Apple, like one item, so simply what this line will do, that is your spread operator, comma your data, as this already have Apple. So as I told you, it expands an array into individual elements. So what do you mean by this expands? So it will simply do something like this. Simply your Apple, and now as user type orange, your data will be simply now your orange. So this part, that is triple dot your item, it expanded an array into individual elements. It would be Apple, then comma your orange. And if it would have not expanded the array, then the array would have looked something like this. And inside the array, it would look something like this, simply your orange. But as we have the spread operator, so it expanded the array into individual elements and it also created a new array without modifying the original one. So now let's say again, so let's have this last case simply. Let's say again the user writes EV So the user added kiwi. Then as we have items is already containing this. Now the user write simply kiwi. Now the data will be. So now as in the items array, we already have these two. So simply again this time it will have simply your apple, your orange, and the data, that is this. So simply EV. And if it would have not been expanded, then again it would be looking something like this. But as we used spread operator, so it is expanded into individual elements. So simply we got the final result as your apple, orange, and kiwi. So this way it works. So now let's get back to our code. So now we are easily adding the items. But as you can see, even if I'm adding the item and clicking this add button, from here the input field, the item is not getting removed. So to remove that, simply after adding the items here, on clicking, we need to set this to again empty. So set data to again empty. So see, we wrote orange, we added that item, and from here the item got removed. Then again, so see. So now what we need? We need a remove button as well. So now again, and we need to have that button inside our li. So simply a button this time, a minus button, and we want to remove the items on click, right? So again, here on click. So this time handle delete. It will delete the items. And now again, we need to define that. So simply your handle delete. Now how to delete the items? With the help of ID. Okay. So, and to delete the items with the help of ID, we will use filter method. So let me write it down first, then I will explain you again. So it would be simply your set items, and here we will use filter method simply. So items dot filter, and here also in our handler delete function, we need to pass the ID, right? So whichever button we will click, let me write it down first. So whichever item we will click, we need to have that ID. So simply here we will pass the ID of the item which we clicked, and here we will grab their ID. So now we do not need the first parameter, we only need the ID. So I left it blank with underscore, and the second parameter, let's say your index. So this index would be your filter method index, and what the filter method does, so it will create a new array containing the elements that will pass some condition that we will provide here, and it will also not modify your original array, it will create a new array as well. And it also does not modify your original array. So we have our filter method, and the condition here would be simply if your index is not equal to the ID. So it means the item which we click, if this condition fails, the item will be deleted. So the filter method will create a new array which will contain the elements that will pass this condition, right? So let's first check, then I will show you with example. So simply your apple, let's say your mango. So see, we are easily deleting the items, right? So now let me show you. So what it will do, simply let's say we have, let's take the example of 4 items. So now let's say we have 4 items. So simply, and as you know, the filter method will iterate over all the elements. As we have these elements, it will iterate over each elements with the help of their ID, like ID 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we have this condition simply. Let me just have a console log here to show you how we got the ID. So now, so let's say we click this item, that is your orange, the second item. So the ID of this second item, that is orange, will be simply 1. So if I click this, we will grab their ID. So see, we got the ID as 1. What it will do, it will check for all the IDs this condition. So first it will check your index, that is 0. As we have the ID of clicked item, let me write it down. So the ID of clicked item simply 1. So it will check for each, that is 0, not equal to your ID. Yes, it is not equal. Then again 1, not equal to your ID, that is 1. So this time the condition fails. So it will not contain this item. Then again 2, not equal to your ID, that is 1. Again true. Then again 3, not equal to your ID, that is 1. So yes, so these 3 conditions passed and this failed, the second condition. So it will create the array containing the elements which passes this condition, right? So it will contain simply your first item, third, and fourth. That is apple, mango, and papaya. It deleted your second item, right? So this way it works. It will check for each IDs and compare. Whichever fails this condition, it will simply delete your item. So till here, so your to-do list is completed. So if the interviewer asks you to have the to-do list, you can simply create this list. Till here, it is fine. But let's say if the interviewer further asks you to have some messages, like now, initially, as you can see, we can add empty items as well. And there is no such limits to add the items. Like the user can write items indefinitely. That we do not want, right? So let's say the interviewer asks you to have several messages. And here, to avoid empty items being added, simply you can have, or let's say for this, the user messages. So let's say for that, we need to again have state variable. Simply give it a name as message. Then the function which will update the value of this state variable is simply set message. Initially it would be empty as well. So now here, instead of directly adding the items, we will check. So we need to avoid first the adding of the empty items, right? So how we will check? Simply if not your data, it means if there is no data, simply do not add any items. Simply return. It means simply exit this function. Do not go further to these conditions. And what do we mean by this? I hope you know about truthy and falsy values. So that concept is being used here. So if you don't know, let me show you, or let me give you a brief. So see, so as you know, the truthy values for non-empty strings, your numbers except 0, array, objects, it will give true. And for your falsy values, your empty string simply null, undefined, or it can be more. So you must know this concept. So simply, if not data, it means if your data is empty, simply we will return exit the function So if not data, it means as we have falsy value for empty string. So if not data means if your data is empty. So for empty data, falsy value, it will return true. So it means if you do not have any data, then simply return, exit this function, don't go further to these conditions, but return with a message as simply let's have a danger symbol. So to have this emoji, if you're having Windows 11, just press the Windows and right angle bracket key at once. You will get to have this option, simply a warning symbol with empty items cannot be added. So with this message, exit the function, and we need to show the error message as well. So simply, then again, here also the concept of truthy and falsy values. If the message is true, then simply show the messages. That will be your message state variable. So I already have the styling for this as well. So simply a class name message. So now if message true, if your message is non-empty, so as if we do not have any data, we will set the message. So that time the message will not be empty, and for non-empty strings it will give true. So simply if this is true, show them the message simply. In the else part, you do not want to have anything, right? So see, for empty item it says empty items cannot be added. So now let's say again, here we have one more problem, that is empty items cannot be added, right? But let's say if a user gives some spaces, and then if he tries to add that, to see, then he can enter empty items with spaces. So to avoid this, we can have a trim method. So it will trim your leading as well as trailing edges, or maybe the spaces from front and the spaces at the back. So it will trim that. So now let's say empty item cannot be added. Then again space. To see, again it says empty items cannot be added, right? So now let's say the second condition, that is limit your items. So how you will do? Simply, then again, if your items dot length, so it would be simply greater than 5. If your item exceeds the number 5, simply again show them the message. So again that danger symbol, delete your items to add more. So let's say, so we have 5 items. So now as we have limited our items to 5, so if we try to enter one more item, see, it says delete items to add more, but the item got added. So we need to avoid that also. So again, with the error message, simply return after that. So if it exceeds the number of 5, simply show the user this messages, simply show the user this message and return. Don't go further. So let's say, and this message is the previous one. It means we haven't cleared this message. Let me just quickly write it down. So now let's say if a user tries to add more item, to see, now it says delete items to add more. And now we have one problem, that is the messages are showing properly but not getting removed even if we are clearing the errors. So to clear the message, first from here for this part, it means as soon as, let's say for this part first, so when it says empty items cannot be added, so this message should be cleared if the user starts typing, right? So simply in your handle change function, set the message to empty again. So now if the user will start writing or maybe start typing, this message will remove. See, the message got removed. Then again, let's do the same thing for the delete message as well. So after deleting this item, the message should be removed, but now it is not getting removed. So simply in your handle delete, here also set your message to empty again. So if we delete the item, see, the error message got removed, and one more message simply, and the last message, that is on adding the item, it should show the message, that is item added successfully. So simply here only, if it passes these two conditions, then simply our code will come here in this part. Then here simply so a tick symbol, successfully added the item. So see, then again, see, as soon as the user starts typing, the messages are getting removed. So this is how you can create a very simple to-do list and impress the interviewer as well. So even if you are a fresher, this question will be definitely asked for your machine coding rounds. And if you are experienced, then also the interviewer can start your interview with this basic question to have your basic knowledge first. Then he will dive deep into the hard concepts. So this question is for both freshers as well as the experienced one. So yes, that's it for this video. Hope you understood the to-do list in a much better way. So see you all in the next one. Till then, take care.